and everybody associated with the start of the season. As you start to look around the country, games are being played, and as you probably can tell, teams are not at full strength in terms of how they want to look or as predicted, and you see some scores that raise eyebrows more this time of the year than almost any other time. And so, like them, we're in that place where we're not where we need to be. Hopefully, we're incrementally getting better each time out, and I like to think, based on last Friday and then practices through the weekend, that guys are getting it a little bit better than they had previous to that. So obviously before Friday's opening game, we still have a lot of work to do in preparation, and so this week will be very important to us in trying to get us prepared for Friday and obviously beyond that.
Dave, can you talk a little bit about the two freshmen and what you've seen in them?
Well, with Mo, as I said earlier and publicly, that he's got something about him that I really, really like, and obviously his talent is that, but he's got something about his personality, something about his work ethic, something about his game that I've really taken a liking to, and extremely hard worker, and I think last Friday proved it a little bit, where he wasn't intimidated, he wasn't nervous, he wasn't, he didn't have the jitters, and obviously it was only an exhibition game, and but he fit right in, and I think that speaks to not only his talent but his maturity and being able to handle some things, and so I think he's coming along very well. Lars is coming along comparably, but a little bit slower because it's been a little bit more of an adjustment for him. He went through and probably will continue to go through the aggressive freshman blues, where everything he does is a foul, and we're trying to clean that up a lot with him and for him in practice. But I think his aggression, his desire to rebound is something that we need and will use, and if we can just kind of refine him offensively, and then obviously refine them in terms of keeping them in games, that they'll both, as the season goes along, be not only used more but be effective more for us.
Does the leadership seem energized by possibilities?
Well, I think the leadership is comfortable. The two guys, Sean and JR, with their role. They're getting more and more comfortable with the expectations that I have for them. I think they've adapted very well to handling the responsibility of taking care of this team, and now just like I have anticipation, I think they have a lot of anticipation on what will happen from this point on, based on where we're at and where we got to go.
Where are Mentor and Bannister in their rehab now? How soon will they be available?
It's I don't know the correct, not correct. I don't know the true answer to that, because it's I don't know the medical part of it. They're both rehab, two different situations. TJ is continuing on a rehab schedule that won't have him ready for a few more weeks. Dante is a little bit more touch and go, because trying to get some consistency in not only rehab but consistency in how he feels, and some days are better than others, and don't want to have, and being very cautious, because we don't want to have setbacks for either one of them, but mainly in this case Dante, and that you get him to a certain point healthy, and feeling better. You don't want to have a setback, so we're progressing. I don't know. We're going almost, it sounds corny, but almost going day by day and week by week with it. And we got to the point last Friday where we figured it wasn't worth the risk of setting it back, and then we'll give it some more time and go through this week, and by Wednesday or Thursday start looking and zeroing in on Friday, and if that's a possibility, and if not, we'll do the same for Tuesday and Sunday, and just keep going until the medical team and he and I are all on the same page as to what his contribution would be.
How do you think Tunji played in the exhibition game?
With the responsibility of being his harshest critic, I don't know that I thought he played as well. But again, he was the presence that I thought he needed to be, not only by blocking 6 shots, but I think the other guys knew he was around, the opponent and his teammates. And I think if you start looking over your shoulder for some long arm guy to be around, it can affect the way you approach scoring underneath. But then there were other times where he got caught, not rebounding or not posting up. And I think for me, it's patience, using what he has and what he can do and working hard and being patient for me to understand that he didn't play a lot last year, and this is his second year, and there are going to be some good times and bad times in growing into the position.
Have you found yourself having to rebuild the confidence of some of these kids who were here last year and sat?
I don't know if rebuilding confidence is the way I put it. Just building. I think how I would look at Mo or how I would look at Lars is the same way I would look at Adrian, the same way I look at Tunji, is that they haven't played a lot of college basketball, and so it's just molding their mind as opposed to changing their mind. And whether they were adversely affected or not by last season really isn't, I don't think, a concern of theirs or a concern of mine. It's just adapting to today's surroundings and what's being given to them and what do they got to do to make life better for us and for them.
Play the type of defense that you really want to play?
I got the sense that how, and that's, again, I go back to my one of my biggest chores this season will be to know that defensively it's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of things, and ultimately it takes a lot of bodies. We don't have that. So philosophically, how do I get that accomplished, but yet, make some subtle changes based on personnel? And, it means we'll probably have to adjust and play more zone or do different types of things to make sure that we can last through a game or obviously throughout a season. But, there's still a baseline of what we talk about every day, and that is that we've got to look at that end first and foremost before we do anything else. And I think they understand that, and now it's up to the coaches and I to kind of figure out as to how best to get it out of them.
What's the biggest thing you've tried to get Jason Kane to do that maybe he hasn't done consistently his first 2 years?
Just to realize his potential. I think he's got some innate, especially on offense, abilities that have been underutilized by himself more than anybody, and I think that comes with self-belief. I think it comes in, confidence that is given to him by work and working more than he ever has. I think it's confidence that's given to him by coach, and I'm not going to give that to him unless I think he deserves it, which means he's got to work more. But I think that's the biggest thing. He's got a pretty good amount of talent, and it comes kind of natural to him. So we've got to do our best to bring it out of him.
What's your history? Will you start the same lineup Friday night, and what is your history on lineups? Do you change game to game?
Yeah, I mean, I've changed before, but I don't like to change. I like consistency. It's a little bit risky starting 2 first years, either the start of the season or throughout the season. But right now, based on where we've been and what happened Friday, and obviously we'll continue to evaluate through the week. It probably will go as you saw, unless something changes over the next 3 days.
Like you got good production from Joseph and Kane.
Yeah, and that was part of it. Yeah, it was part of it. We Adrian is unique in that he's a shot producer, point producer, and maybe having a little bit of a spark coming off the bench will be good for us. I won't know that yet until we start getting into game situations. But if that's the case, we can continue to develop that role for him and have him understand the value of that role. having a little bit more, coming off the bench. And I think even with the starting lineup, we're talking about without a healthy Dante and a healthy TJ, we're only talking seven guys. And so in my mind, they're all starters because they're all going to play major minutes.
And where do you get the most offense on this team, especially if Dante's hurt?
Any way we can. It's a continuing issue that it's not going to solve itself overnight. We got to continue to work real hard as we've been doing with the guys in practice to get a little bit better at it. But you can't get something that's not there, and right now it's not something that's a strength of ours. So it may times and cause Mo or Adrian to post up sometimes just to get a presence down there against smaller defenders. But it's not something I can say that I can answer because I got a name for you or you got any eligibility left?
You mentioned that you would be at the football game Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
When you were at UConn, they may have already turned 1A, but you probably have not been into the school with football the level it is here. How does it help in recruiting? What has it been like for you to go to the games during the fall, et cetera, et cetera?
I never really experienced a football Saturday, and I just watched. And a good friend of mine worked in sports information, Notre Dame, and I was in Chicago, and he's always inviting me on, Saturday. You just got to experience this thing in South Bend that goes on, and I've had invitations to go to Michigan or Tennessee, and I've never been to a major college football game until I came here. And I'm like a kid in a candy store. The pageantry, the smell of football in the air, the tailgating, the people, the energy, Cavman, the whole experience for me is terrific, and I think it gives me the kind of energy, and I think it carries over to we've tried to bring especially young kids up to be part of that on all the Saturdays that we can, and have them see that as other schools do, obviously. But I think it's wonderful. I think it's a great help for what we're trying to do.
Do you think our debuts, by their nature, a somewhat awkward process? I mean, not just yours, but yours on a new team, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sort of a process to sort of put pieces together that's an ongoing thing throughout a first year?
Yeah, you've got a first practice, you have a first game, you have a lot of firsts that you're involved in, and but I think it's like you mentioned, it's only one of many things that will go on in piecing this thing together. And as soon as the game ends on Friday, anything that I or anybody else will have thought about a first opening night will be gone, and you're on to the next project.
I'm sorry, I meant not so much the first game.
Oh, the first year?
First season of sort of feeling your way along and them feeling their way along in terms of relating to you.
Yeah, you know what? I think we're almost as a group, as a team, we're almost beyond that, and we've spent enough time together to be well into our relationship and what we expect of one another. And obviously, there's some games to be played, which they'll already saw a new me, and they'll continue to see a new me on the sidelines. But other than that, I think we're well into the process where that doesn't cause for any different things to go on just because it's the first year. I think everybody has such a job to do, such a difficult job to do, that we focus in on that day by day, and we don't really look at anything else around us.
The negatives are obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to do more coaching and teaching?
Yeah, when you have 13 or 15, or if you include non-scholarship guys, some teams have 16, 17 guys in the gym every day, and if you're not careful, you may not notice a guy who's having a bad day or spend as much individual time with somebody else. But with a limited amount of guys, they certainly have they don't want for individual attention, plus or minus. and I think that's a good thing. There's nowhere to hide, you know. Usually, if you're picking on one guy, there's two other guys that are happy because you're not picking on them. But like I said, there's nowhere to hide, and so it's good because it helps both of our mine and their learning tracks and gets us more familiar quicker, and in the long run, that'll help them a lot. You know, especially for a guy like Billy because he has experience, and I don't think he's intimidated by a situation. But you know, again, with including them, if you're talking about without the two guys we mentioned before, talking about 11 guys, you know, sometimes you need to go in any normal situation 9-10 deep in a rotation, and that would include, you know, 3 of those guys, if not all 4. So they've been invited to the party. I've yelled and screamed at them as much as the guys that have been on scholarship because I've told them that we're going to need minutes from them.
Could you comment on the recruiting in terms of, I guess, the players who returned letters of intent?
Yeah, of the 3 commitments, we have 2 that have returned letters. Johnny Lett from Mobile, who we're very happy to have, who's a long-armed, rebounding, athletic forward who is a little bit unpolished in a good way offensively, but it'll add some toughness and some rebounding, which I think is very important to what we need. Tremendous young guy who's very, you know, respectful. Really loved his time here, and I look forward to getting him here and working with him, getting him better, obviously, in his game and his body. He's got a body that can put on easy 20-25 pounds, and so we'll be able to do that. Jameel Tucker, who a wonderful kid and has been through a lot in the recruiting process, and his coach, John Boyd, really believed in what we were trying to do, and at 6'9", he'll be able to play almost like Jason does. You can play him as a power forward, but he has a lot of perimeter skills. He probably has one of the better shooting touches for a big guy that I've seen in a while, and so, you know, we'll be able to use him in different ways. Face up, you know, 17 feet post ups. He's athletic enough, and obviously he's another guy with a body that can put on a lot of weight. That I think will have a fine career here.